So the idea is to distract the Terran, make them run their army back into their main, leaving lots of their army exposed. The idea might be also to take out the planetary fortress, but because it is a planetary fortress, it'll be incredibly difficult for only Zerglings to take out, because it does one-shot them, and it has 3 building armor, which means the Zerglings only do 4 damage per shot. So the Zerglings are now going in, and every single marine has been cleared up, and the Zerglings are now sweeping in, but they've gone straight into the planetary fortress. But will they be able to do any damage to them? I'm not sure they will. Incredibly good fungal actually going down on the SCVs, and it's only on 300 health, 200 health, 100 health. SCV repairs now going down 100, and it's going back up incredibly close, but unfortunately not quite close enough, as that was incredibly inefficient trade for the Zerg, as no production facilities have been destroyed, and most of the economy is absolutely fine. In fact, the only 2 workers have gone down in this entire game, so the Terran is well ahead in this game, having lost so many Zerglings. Another fight coming here, incredibly good fungals, as the Terran has bunched up terribly, losing lots and lots of Zerglings, Marines. And these few Zerglings will actually be able to clear up the siege tanks because they have that minimum range. So the Zerg's actually now expanded onto 4 base, but it's not yet mining. So the idea is that he'll soon transfer these workers over to that 4th base, as this one runs low on minerals, whereas the Terran is still quite low on minerals, but he has no workers here. He really ought to transfer some of these over, but it's quite hard to do in the heat of the moment. Both these players doing incredibly well. They're actually also even on suppliers. The hive is now fully done, and 2-2 upgrades are nearly complete, as we see an Ultralisk Cavern coming up. This should do incredibly well, because the Terran is not going for Marauders, and is only instead going for tanks, which are reasonably good against Ultralisks, but the problem is that they don't do splash damage to them because they're so big, so they are reasonably ineffective against them. So the Terran is actually now taking up a siege position around his 3rd, which could allow incredibly potent counterattacks to come into the natural, as there is no real wall off here, but you can't know that without trying, and if you do try that, it'll most likely be inefficient. So these this force is now getting reasonably saturated, as both players are doing incredibly good jobs on macro. The Zerg has, I think, been low the entire game. The Terran's starting to float a little bit, but he is doing reasonably well on these barracks camp, but he wants to start adding reactors to them, or even tech labs, as he might be suspecting a Ultralisk transition. So medevac drop has now actually been put down here to be able to just transport a couple of Marines up here, so that he can then take this trapped expansion as a future expansion, which is surprisingly hard for the Zerg to be able to attack, but the drops, which the Zerg researched so early in this game, are going to prove absolutely pivotal, because it means that he can just walk straight up there and start to take down that command center. He wants to also start taking down these rocks, because they're going to be a problem throughout the entire game if he doesn't, really. So the Terran's starting to do a slow siege forwards, and very usefully putting siege tanks on this high ground, which the Zergling cannot attack ever. So you need to not only have the Xel'Naga Tower, but also Infestors or Mutalisks to take them off here. You'll also notice that the tanks can all attack nearby tanks, so they're able to defend each other very efficiently, as the Zerg is now sweeping straight forwards with his army that he's hoping to slowly transition out of, with many Infestors. In fact, I'd almost say too many, but you struggle to have too many Infestors. The main problem is that he doesn't have enough Zerglings, So those will all die incredibly quickly to the tanks and marines, leaving just banelings and infestors, which will mean that he won't be able to do incredibly good damage with just those units, and it could backfire horrendously if he does actually push out into this position. So more Zerglings have actually been dropped into this main, but a couple of Marines coming out of these barracks have been able to clear them up quite well, as well as some Banelings actually. If it were me, I probably would have only picked up Zerglings, because Banelings aren't very efficient against buildings, unless they're given, unless you have a very limited time, in which case it's actually the Zerglings that are efficient, because you're then breaking down the buildings to allow the Zerglings to attack what's inside with their increased surface area. I love the creep spread under the buildings by IC. It's an incredibly good technique to prevent further expansions and just to generally be able to know when they're going to be taking expansions. But this slow tank spread is getting better and better, but it'll probably be broken when the Zerg manages to get these 3/3 upgrades along with the Ultralisk chitinous plating, I think it's chitinous, which has now actually just been taken, but is, I think, slightly late, as it's quite a slow upgrade to complete, nearly as slow in fact as a regular upgrade. Actually it's half as fast, it's half as slow as a regular upgrade, but still quite a long time compared to most normal upgrades. The same time as combat shields. Okay, so the upgrades are very nearly finished. It's actually not very good push timing, as it's about 5 seconds away from completing. But as I said, now only the infestors have been left, and the Terran has been incredibly efficient with that, with having a couple of tanks left, well, many tanks left, 4 here, with Marines and Marauders here, to be able to soak up the and deal damage to the Ultralisk transition, which is now coming out, as Marauders deal 26 damage to the armoured Ultralisks, which will only actually be reduced very slightly by their armour, which is of course 6, whereas the Marines are barely even shooting peas at them, only doing 3 damage. So the Terran's actually slowly mining out. He's now completely got rid of these 2 bases here, and is being forced to move on to this 3rd base, which probably will be the target of a attack by the Zerg quite shortly. And this 3rd by the Planetary Fortress is also taking a lot of damage. You can expect a similar push to come out of the Zerg in a couple of seconds, but it probably won't be incredibly efficient, I have to say, because he doesn't have any Zerglings to be able to soak any damage, and he has so many infestors. So the actual only real damage dealing units are these 8 Ultralisks, which are melting incredibly quickly, as 2 have now gone down, 3, 4, leaving only 3 left now, whereas the Terran is still hovering right next to max, and with a single scan he could be able to take out so many infestors, as so many of them have now just gone down exactly like that. I think that was 5 just there. So the Terran is now using this moment to push straight forward before the reinforcements arrive for the Zerg. Quite good fungals going down actually, and this Overlord farm has been found and is actually proving quite useful, because the Zerg is able to provide a little bit more time, but there's quite a good wall off here with the Marines and Marauders, allowing them to get incredibly efficient trades against these Zerglings, as the Zerg crashes through and GG is called.